Hello and welcome to the Q over Q podcast. And that stands for quantity over quality, which is the motto of this show. There's going to be an episode every single day, and they're going to be exactly an hour long every time. So I will try and make them good, but at the end of the day, the fact that it's an everyday upload is more important. Now, this first episode is coming at you from outdoors. I'm on my lunch break at college, so I apologise for the windy audio and just the audio in general, really. But I still think it can be an entertaining podcast. There's no plans. We'll just see what happens. Okay, so we'll start by telling you a bit about my day. Today, well, that'll be a bit boring. I think so far this podcast is a bit boring. How could I spice it up? Let me think. Well, I've got an idea. So I'm going to make a noise right now. I'm going to hit an object, and you have to try and identify what object I've just hit. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Can you hear that? Let me do it one more time. Now the aim is to identify that object. What did I just hit? So you won't be able to communicate with me, but you can get the answer in your head. And then in 5 seconds I'll tell you the answer. Okay, the answer is, it was a chair, because I'm sitting on a chair. It was like it's a metal like park bench sort of chair. And that's what I'm sitting on, making the Q over Q podcast. I should probably change the name, but it'll do for now. Okay, let's hit something else. Okay, I'm going to kick this next one, so listen carefully. Did you get that? There was actually two noises. If you listen very carefully, I dropped something and then I kicked it. Let's do it again. I'll do the exact same thing. I'll drop it and then I'll kick. Okay, I'm not sure how well the audio would have picked up on that. Especially that I accidentally dropped something, you see. So the aim of the game is identify what I dropped and then identify what I kicked. Now, I'll give you a hint because I think last round was a bit hard. So what I dropped, thinking about it now, I'm actually quite a little bit disturbed that I dropped this, because the fact that I dropped it so easily makes me concerned for the future that I might drop it again, because I definitely don't want to lose this thing. So see if that helps. And the thing I kicked was, it's got a word on it. It's a relatively large object and it's got a word on it. Okay, now get your answers in. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, what I dropped was my credit card. It fell out of my phone, which I'm recording this in. And it's a bit shocking that I dropped my credit card. It's definitely not the sort of thing you want to drop. And then the thing I kicked was a bin, and the word on the bin was litter. So we've done 3 of them now, and I think they were probably pretty hard, but I hope you enjoyed the game. Now, to keep the podcast interesting, I'm going to do something else now. Let's think. It's kind of hard. I should have maybe prepped it. Let's think. Well, you got to keep talking when you're hosting a podcast. You can't have empty gaps. So I'm going to keep talking. There are seagulls flying above me. There are bushes around me. It's very cold. I probably won't be able to record this whole hour-long podcast in one go, because in about 45 minutes I've got to go back to college. So I might have to record this in 2 parts, which is fine. I'll just edit it together. And I do feel a bit uncomfortable because there are some people walking about, and I feel a bit uncomfortable if they're hearing my podcast, you know. Okay. So let's think. So first of all, I'm going to put my credit card back where it's supposed to be. But I think I should probably think of somewhere else to put my credit card, because I don't want to drop it again like that. I hope the audio's alright on this. Now, what else could I do? Well, I don't know. Oh, hands are very cold. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story from my life. That could be interesting. Okay, this story. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the funniest story from my life. This is what I believe to be the funniest story ever. Okay, from my life. This is the funniest thing that's ever happened to me. So, I used to go to Scouts. I was a scout. Unfortunately, that's over now because of the COVID. But I used to go, and we used to go on camps. And some of these camps were competition-based camps. So I was on one of these competition-based camps where essentially there's a few activities you do over the course of the camp, over the weekend, such as hiking, such as archery, such as shooting, such as canoeing. And the last task I'd done at this point in time was the canoeing. And so I'd done the canoeing, and then I walked back to the camp. And I sat down, and my friend was eating a chocolate bar. Oh no, that's wrong actually. I went to my tent and I got my double-decker chocolate bars that I'd brought, and I offered him one, and he was talking about the chocolate bar, and he said that he liked, and I couldn't quite hear what he said, but he said something like he liked the canute, something like that, you know, I don't know. Canute. I was like, what? But I knew he was talking about the gooey bit inside the chocolate bar. It sounded something like canute or, you know, canoe or something like that. So, okay. I've learned a new word as well, because I didn't actually know it was called that. So now I know. Next thing I do is, because I have a few of these bars left and I'm not going to eat them all by the end of the camp, so I offer them around. And I say to somebody, do you want a double-decker? And it's a girl. She says, sure. She takes it, and she starts eating it, and then she says something which I mishear. It's hard to tell this story actually, because it's all about mishearing things, but she says something like, this is what I hear: how was the canute? I think, oh great, I know the word. I know this word now. I've learnt it from my friend, canute. It's the chewy bit inside the chocolate bar. And I say, oh, well, it was a bit chewy. And then she says, what? And I say, well, it was a bit chewy. And then she says, what do you mean it was a bit chewy? And I say, what? And then she says, well, I said, how was the canoeing? And I think that's the funniest thing. I think that's the funniest thing that ever happened in my life. It was just because, like, she had just gone, how was the canoeing? And I had gone, it was a bit chewy. Because, of course, remember, I'd just gotten canoeing. Oh, that's a funny one. Talking of funny stories from that camp, I'm going to give you another one, and this one I think is so funny. Right. And you're probably not that interested anymore because that last one wasn't that great. It's hard to tell that story because it's all about mishearing things. How do you tell a story like that? But anyway. So this one I think is you might enjoy more. So there was this guy, and he was like kind of a bit posh and a bit up himself, if you will. And he had a camp chair. We all have camp chairs when we go. And then someone was like, came back into the big tent and was like, oh, you know, I sat on your camp chair or something. And then the posh guy goes, well, you better not have broke it or something like that. And he's like, no. And then the posh guy goes, whatever you do to that chair, I'll do to you. And then someone else is like, so if I go and jack the chair off, are you going to jack me off? I didn't think he used the word jerk. He probably used the word jerk, didn't he? Yeah, I should have said jerk. But that is a funny story. You know, these sort of stories are not actually that funny when you tell them, but when you actually, if you really put yourself in this situation, it's, you know, you had to be there. So, you know, one of the funny stories. Well, no more funny stories. They're not really that good. Let's think of something else to do. Well, I hope the audio is not too bad. I'll only get to find out once I'm finished, and I'm freezing, shivering and everything. Okay. Well, by the way, if you have any suggestions for what I could do in this podcast, please let me know. Because as I said, there'll be one of these every single day. And it's going to get to a point where they're going to be extremely boring if I don't think of new ideas. So let me know new ideas. I'll probably do whatever you want. Like, if anything you come up with, I'll probably give it a go. So please, send in your suggestions. And I'm going to try, and 1 second, I'm going to be quiet now because people are passing. It's taken a while. They were further away than I thought. So, as I was saying, so yeah, any ideas you got, put them in the comments, and I will listen. I mean, read. Okay. I'd like to make it like quite an interesting podcast. The idea is going to be that there's one every single day. So it's kind of like the purpose of it really is for people who just want something to listen to every day. You know, from the same creator. They just want that, you know. I can see the appeal, to be honest. You know, every day I'll be here and I'll be talking about something. And you can listen, you can maybe download it. You can catch the train and listen to it whilst you're on the train. You can catch the bus. you can catch a ferry, and you can actually do anything. You don't just have to catch stuff, you can do anything and listen to this podcast. Although, you probably can't do noisy things. Like, as I say, I've been doing welding, and I doubt it would be very enjoyable if I was to listen to something like this whilst I'm welding. Also, let me know in the comments any ways I could improve the podcast, because that would be important to me. How could I improve it? Obviously, you can give me your suggestions, but how could I make it better? As a presenter, perhaps, how could I present better? Because I don't have any experience in this. How could I, fill the gaps better? I'm so cold, but I kind of got to stay here because I'm not walking around this town. Is it a city, maybe? No, it's not a city. Kind of looks like a city. It's bustling. I'm not walking around there talking to my phone. So I'm just sitting here shivering in a park, basically. And I'm only 16 minutes through. Half an hour till I have to go back to college. I think what I'm going to actually do is leave the audio running. I like the idea that there's no cuts, so recording it in 2 parts is not cool. So it's probably illegal, but I might just keep it running even once I get into college, and then stop it at an hour long. Sounds like an infringement on rights, but who's gonna care? Nobody's gonna find out. Well, let's do the maths on this. We're 17 minutes into this video, and it's past, so the video will end in about 40 minutes, so about 10 minutes, so I'll be recording for about 15 minutes after I've left this park. And probably what I'll do is just keep the phone recording and just put it in my pocket. Just let it keep rolling. I'm just wondering if it's going to make any sort of beeping noise, or it's going to start blurting out something that says like recording is over or something like that. We can't be having that. But definitely stick around. So the last 15 minutes I probably won't be talking, but you'll still be hearing things. Could be a bit risky, but hey, that's what life's all about. Taking risks. This is going to be a risky podcast. Let's think. So tomorrow, I mean, really, when I'm doing a podcast, I shouldn't just be thinking about things. I've got to have topics, right? I'm just here thinking about the podcast. That's not the right way to do it. But I'm going to do it anyway. I've not got anything else to talk about. So tomorrow will be Friday. I'll be in college again. But we end early on Friday, so I won't have a lunch break like I do today. So I could just record an hour of me not talking, like just put the phone in my pocket when I'm on the train or something. But I'd rather get some actual content. So maybe I'll go out after college. Go out to the park or something near me and record it. Because I don't really want to do it in my own house. Don't really speak to my parents, so it's always kind of weird when I actually speak in the house. It's like, I don't speak to my parents, I don't give them any sort of information about me. So if I started talking like I am right now to this phone, they'd be like, well, they probably wouldn't care, they'd think it's good, but I'd be like, thinking to myself, well, just kind of weird. because they're used to me not talking, you know. And then I'm here like, hello, welcome to the Q over Q podcast and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really like recording in the house. Shall we change the name of the podcast whilst we're at it? Q over Q. It's got a nice ring to it. The other idea I had was Duck Duck Goose. The Duck Duck Goose podcast. Because I think that's the sort of names that podcasts have. They're just like random stuff like that. Duck Duck Goose. Maybe we'll call it that for now. That's the new title. But it's just a working title. But still the motto is going to be quantity over quality. That's our motto. Well, I have a few mottos, but that's probably the one you need to know about. So, you know, I think just the potential of this idea is vast. Podcasts are a bit overdone as well, actually. I think maybe I'm doing a bad thing by contributing to them. But this will be a good one. And really, this is not about being a podcast. This is just someone talking. It's just a recording, think of it that way. It's not a podcast, it's an audio recording. That's what we'll call it instead, actually. We'll call it the Duck Duck Goose audio recording. Actually, we'll call it... Let's change the name so it fits the title of audio recording. Let's see. What could go before the words audio recording? The Daily? Nah. The so cold. Maybe we'll call it... Well, I can't just sit here thinking about... Come on. Let's make this one interesting, because it's the first podcast. Let's make it interesting. Oh, what can we do? Right. Let's count the seagulls in the sky. Right, there's one there. And that's the only one I can see. There's one seagull in the... Oh, I see another one. That's two. Two seagulls. 3, 4. 4 seagulls. Any more? I see another one, but it might have been the same one as before. So 4 or 5. Oh, one in the distance. That's 6. Okay, we'll stop the game there. We've got 6 seagulls. Perhaps we can do that every episode. Count the seagulls. That would be fun. So already we're developing a bit of a structure here. We've got 2 games, which is Count the Seagulls and Hitting Things. We'll come up with better titles for them, and we can make them daily games. You know, that's the sort of idea. That's the sort of idea I'm going for in this podcast. Like, we'll have all sorts to do every day. We'll be counting the seagulls. We'll be kicking things, dropping credit cards, all that sort of stuff. And you can look forward to that every day. So look forward to that tomorrow. We'll count the seagulls. There'll probably be no seagulls. I can predict that if I end up doing it where I think I will. There'll probably be no seagulls, and there'll probably be a few interesting things to hit. Okay. We're at 25 minutes. Maybe an hour is a bit ambitious, but I think that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? I think it's good that it's stretched out, rather than, because that is what the point is, quantity over quality. So it's good that it's stretched out with poor quality. That's the idea. I think this is going to be such a good podcast. There's a flag behind me on the wall, and it looks to me like it's... I can't remember whose flag it is, but it's white on the top, red on the bottom. Is that Poland? Maybe that's sort of a joke because it's the flag is on a pole, so maybe that's why it's the Poland flag. So it's that sort of joke. That's kind of funny, isn't it? I'm going to try and also not delete any of these podcasts, which is going to be a tricky challenge for me because I'm the type of person where after literally one day I already I do cringe at myself, you see. And it doesn't normally take that long for me to want to cringe at myself. Like, some people can probably go for like a few years before they cringe at the things they've done, but I normally cringe pretty much the day after. So it's going to be a struggle for me to not delete these podcasts, but I'll try not to delete them. And to help myself, I'm going to try and play it cool. So I'm not going to, get too extreme. I'm playing it cool. So that's what I'm doing. So I don't, I think it will take a while for me to want to delete this one. I think I've played it cool so far. Now, talking of birds, I think that was a pigeon. Interesting. I really do worry what the audio is going to sound like on this, because I obviously can't hear it until I'm finished recording. It could be the most atrocious thing. We just got to hope it's alright. But fingers crossed, right? I think I'm warming up a little bit now, which is good. Now let me just clarify something. This podcast is not the sort of podcast that you listen to. You sit down, you open up YouTube, you look on your subscriptions. Oh look, the Duck Duck Goose audio recording has uploaded, and then you click on it, and then you sit there and you just listen straight through. No. It's not that sort of podcast. This is a sort of podcast where you download it and you listen to the podcast as you're going about your daily things. Maybe you like to draw, so you can put the podcast in your earphones and you can draw and just listen to me talk about things. That way you won't be too let down by the quality, because really it's just a supplement, something to fill the gaps. Maybe you like to walk. I like to walk. I've started listening to podcasts as I walk, so perhaps you could do that too. You could actually download the podcast, go for a walk. It'd be a good way to get a good walk, because you know exactly how long the episodes are going to be. They're going to be exactly an hour. So you can go for a walk and you can listen whilst you walk. What else could you do whilst you're listening to my podcast? I hear you say. Well, you could canoe. You could couldn't really, well, maybe you couldn't canoe because you wouldn't want to get your phone wet, would you? I suppose you could, if you're confident enough. You can listen to my podcast whilst you run. I'm not sure if anybody actually listens to a podcast when they run. Do you think you could hear it still? Probably wouldn't be the best place to hear it. I think when you're listening to a podcast, you got to kind of be chilling out. You could listen to the podcast whilst you're gaming. I've been doing that recently. I've been playing a game on my laptop called Stein.world, and I've been listening to it. I've been playing the game whilst listening to a podcast. It's not a particularly taxing game. It's like an RPG, so you just go around hitting enemies. So it's easy to play whilst listening. So maybe you want to do that. Listen whilst you're playing Stein.world. Okay. My throat is actually getting a little bit raw, and my mouth is getting dry. So I'm actually impressed that, these podcasts, normally when I'm talking a lot, I'm in a conversation. It's very rare that I'll just sit and talk on my own straight, So I've got a bit more respect for podcasters now. Just sitting there talking for so long. I'm going to walk back into the college and I'm just going to be shivering. But that's alright. I'm going to start heading back in 8 minutes. Giving you 20 minutes to listen whilst I'm not there. So once I do set off for this walk back to the college and then into the college, and as I say, the audio will still be going, you will hear me walking. So I'll just explain what you'll hear just before I set off, so you've got an idea of what you are about to hear, so you're not too confused. You're going to hear me walking to the college. That's going to take me about 5 minutes. You're then going to hear me enter the college. This should be clear when I'm inside, because it'll be much more. There won't be so many cars. Well, there will be no cars. You won't be able to hear any engines or wind. It should be pretty obvious when I'm inside. Then you will hear me enter the workshop. I do welding, so I'm in a workshop. You might not hear the change. Well, actually, you probably will notice when I'm in the workshop, because you'll hear a lot of people talking. And I do feel a little bit guilty about recording them without them knowing, but yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. And then you will actually probably hear me welding, because I'll get in and there'll still be about 10 minutes. Possibly I will have started welding by then. You'll definitely know when that is, because it will sound like electric. It will be very loud. But possibly you won't get to hear that. Might not have started yet by the end of this hour. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Also, you're going to be in my pocket once I set off for the walk. So I'm not sure how much that's going to muffle the audio. How much, are you really going to hear all the engines and stuff like that when I'm walking whilst you're in my pocket? Probably. It's just cold. I don't normally bring a coat because it's one extra thing to carry. Yeah. So, let's see. 5 minutes until, thank God, I get to leave and cool down again. Normally, if I wasn't recording this, I'd probably be walking about. Probably be just walking about. Probably, if I wasn't recording this, I would have been back at the college by now. When it's cold, I normally go back early. The warm up. I just sit in the classroom. Well, it's not really a classroom, it's a workshop. But today, I'm going to leave it a bit longer so I can do more talking. So, yeah. I am nervous about the fact that I'm going to be recording people without them knowing. Hopefully they don't say anything too terrible. Maybe you'll even, I doubt it, but you never know, you might hear me in a conversation. IRL conversation. But I doubt it. 4 minutes until I get to go. Oh, 3 minutes. Maybe I'll just go now. But if I get there early, you're going to be in my pocket for, I don't know, it's going to make me feel nervous. Alright, screw it. There's still 24 minutes left. Okay. I'm going to start walking now. Back to the college. Okay. Hopefully I'm going to turn the screen off and put you in my pocket. Hopefully that won't stop the audio. I don't believe it does. Let me just check. So if this does end the podcast, then goodbye. No, the audio is still going, so we're all good. I can turn the screen off, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the screen off. I'm going to walk back now. So thank you for listening. I will be here tomorrow. And I'll be uploading probably the same time. I don't know what time I'll upload, but it'll probably be the same time every week, so that you have a bit of reliability. That's sort of the point of this podcast is it's just a reliable source that's always going to be here every day. Always something to listen to. Okay? So thank you for listening to the first ever episode of, we still don't know the name, it might be called the Q over Q podcast or the Q over Q audio recording or the audio, maybe I'll call it audio experience actually. It might be called the Duck Duck Goose podcast or the Duck Duck Goose audio recording or the Duck Duck Goose audio experience or any other name in the world. We'll have to wait and see, okay? So I'll see you soon. See you tomorrow. Goodbye and wish me luck on my walk home. Goodbye. Hello, I'm still here. Right now there's nobody close, so I can kind of speak to my phone as I'm walking, so that's what I'm going to do. To fill out the podcast a bit. But if I suddenly stop talking, you can assume that's because I'm about to walk past somebody. And I do feel a bit uncomfortable just talking to myself. Really it just looks like I'm talking to someone on the phone, but if you actually listen to what I was saying, you might think, what's this guy doing? Oh, I'm much warmer now, but I'm still cold. Okay, we're on the home straight now. I'm just going to be quiet for a minute, just in case there's someone around the corner. And there was someone round the corner, so good job I stopped it. crisis averted, as they say. So, yeah, as I say, this is not a very interesting podcast, is it? But the point really is just to listen to this whilst you're doing something else. That's why there's actually no visuals. I mean, a lot of podcasts these days go heavy on the visuals. You can actually watch the podcast pretty much on YouTube. That's normally what I do, but I've decided that the focus of this is going to be the audio. It's really, that's the main point. You just listen to it whilst you're doing something else. Okay, now I am actually going to be quiet now because I'm getting close. I'm going to stop speaking to you now. In a couple of minutes I'll be at the college. Thank you very much for listening to the first episode. And you can carry on listening for about 15 minutes, I think. But in terms of the talking, I'm signing off. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast. And I hope you'll tune in tomorrow. I think it's going to be great. We're going to be counting the seagulls, and we're going to be hitting things and guessing what I hit. And I'll probably think of some other ideas of what to do. Okay. This is me. This is me, and I'm going to have I think I'm going to keep my name anonymous. Not because I'm scared of you knowing who I am, just because I like the idea of being anonymous. Okay, I see people now. Goodbye, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. Hello, I'm still here. I'm alone again. Very close to the college now. Okay, goodbye, enjoy the podcast. it started off alright, but now it's not so good. But I think I'm getting the hang of it again. I mean, near there is alright. Any good then? Yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of it a bit more. That makes sense. Just going up a bit. Yeah. It does. This is how I put my step into the outside. Wow. I don't know if I should show you because I'm even messing up a bit, but like, again, I to show you like actual show you. I'll give it a go, but as I say, I might get it wrong myself. Check that. Maybe put it on for it. First did that one.